This week, we were due to bring you an episode that we recorded live in front of a school audience. But unfortunately, we haven't managed to get it edited in time. So I'm going to bring you an episode that we were holding for a few weeks later. This is a great episode talking about AI and automation within a university. And next week, we will bring you the episode live from the conference. But enjoy this. It's a little shorter than usual. I'm sorry it's come out later than usual, but you are absolutely going to love this conversation.
Welcome to the AI in Education podcast. And Ray, we've talking about vibe coding today, and we've got a special guest to support us with that conversation who really knows about vibe coding, unlike me or you.
Okay, Dan, I'm going to go with the, welcome, we've got a special guest. Tell me who it is, Dan, even though it's right opposite me.
It's Dan Hart. Oh,
Hi.
Very welcome. How many times have you been in the podcast? Twice or three times now, I think.
This is my second time.
Oh, it's the second time. Feels more. I know we
don't know what
do multiple
to say about that, but thank you.
It's okay. I don't know. Yeah, thanks for coming back on the pod,
Okay.
Dan. I really appreciate it.
But importantly, you're wearing a different badge now. Because last time you were on the podcast, you were representing New South Wales Department of Education with Michelle Eichel. And we had a great interview where you were talking about how you had built EduChat.
Mm-hmm. Which is now, I think, the world's largest deployment of generative AI to students in the world. Half a million students. Insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've done a great job.
And then you shocked us all by leaving the world's best job, building that, to move to the University of Sydney. And you now run... Now, you told me it's the AI hub. I've looked it up. You are in charge of the Automation and Innovation Hub. That's a very different definition of AI.
It is, yeah. So there's some history to that, though, about how the team was set up. But the I is definitely AI as in artificial intelligence. All the innovation and stuff we're doing is AI-based.
Now, I've known the history of the Automation and Innovation Hub for a long time, probably for 10 years or more, because the team was originally set up under the CFO's team, and it was about identifying opportunities to reduce there was a bit of reducing the cost of some of the processes inside the university. There was a little bit about how do you speed things up, but it was all about using automation in order to be able to help processes be more efficient. Is it still about that?
Yes and no. So I feel like I should do a bit of a history tour of the AI hub.
Yeah, please do.
But bear
Because I
in
know
mind-
zero about the AI hub.
Well, it might be useful then. But bear in mind, I only joined in August, so
Okay.
I might get some of this wrong. So viewers, listeners, please write in and tell me where I messed it up. So it was founded about 7 years ago now, and it was originally set up as an RPA team. So RPA stands for robotic process automation, and that's where there's like a type of software literally goes in and controls the interface to an app, just like you would by clicking on things.
Yeah.
And because of the nature of that kind of technology, it was pretty simple stuff, like you're removing one field from one app to another, or you're like maybe doing a slight mathematical calculation as you're moving it through, but still incredibly useful.
That's very cool. Yeah.
And I think probably originally the target audience for that was just finance, because that's where it was set up. But the CFO, Wayne Andrews, big shout out, hi boss, he realized the value of that and started spreading it across multiple teams across the university. And now it exists as a service that any staff member in the university can think to themselves, I don't want to do this part of my job anymore because it's boring or time consuming. And they can reach out to us, and then we will use a variety of technology to take that part of the job away from them. And sometimes that's AI, but we will only use AI when it needs to be used. A lot of the time we can do that part of the job just by using regular automation techniques. But increasingly we're doing more AI stuff now, because we have 400 processes across the university that we automate every single day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's equivalent of 400 people or more.
I don't think so. No.
No, but I mean, it's...
if they're doing one thing specifically, yeah.
No, but I mean, I think of
Like
AI,
as employees.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's like somebody who turns up to work and does a job, and you're kind of building a system to do that. And I'm not suggesting in any way it's replacing people, because it isn't. It's about speed or quality or whatever it might be. But you're kind of effectively managing a team of 400 people.
Oh, I never thought about that. Maybe I should ask for a pay rise. Wayne, if you're listening. No,
The agent boss. Yeah.
So in that context, describe your team. Like, what team do you have that does this work?
Actually, can I flip back a bit and talk about the kind of things we get asked to do? Because I think that's also like quite revealing on the kind of team you need to have. So when people come to us and they say, I don't want to do this part of my job anymore, they're not talking about whole processes. They're usually talking about a task or a few tasks within an existing process. So one of the secrets to our team is we will only automate what we've been asked to automate by the person who wants the automation done. And I think that's also why we're very popular, because we're not going in there and taking away whole parts of their jobs. We're just improving their day-to-day life by using appropriate technology. And that also means that we've very thinly spread the benefit across the entire organization now. So those 400 processes run in almost every single department of the university.
Can you give me an example then of one of those processes?
Yeah, so we have an AI-powered bot that reads invoices. So you might think, oh, we've been doing OCR on invoices forever, and we have. But the success rate of that was like pretty poor when we were doing straight OCR. It's because when you're doing invoice reading and using OCR, the OCR model doesn't understand the context. And sometimes understanding the context of the piece of text you're scraping with the rest of the content on the page lets you work out what that number means. And so a good example is GST. Maybe that on the invoice, they don't have GST next to the amount. So the OCR algorithm's not clever enough to work out that that's GST, but a generative AI algorithm knows, because of the positioning on the page, that normally that's where the GST number, it knows that the GST is always smaller than the total. So it actually increases overall efficiency of invoice processing by feeding it through a generative AI model. So we do that for invoices to remove some of the hassle of having to rekey information into our finance system.
That's a great example. Yeah. But I suppose there's so many processes like this, but then when you're thinking about then augmenting this, not only with the technology, but with teams that are capable of, when we mentioned at the beginning, vibe coding, like, how does that approach work? Are you finding the fact that people can now code those automations quickly, is that speeding things up a lot? Are you seeing that?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because vibe coding might also enable a ton of citizen development as well, which might mean there's no need for my team to exist because they can just do it yourself. But in practice, being able to repeatedly make something that runs like thousands of times is quite a different skill set to knock out a prototype. But that prototype is actually very useful as context for our team. So we love it when someone from the organization says, hey, I made this vibed up app. And we go, awesome, because that means all of the business rules are probably well baked into that. And we don't have to spend as much time going through the business requirements definition process.
Yeah. So in terms of the team then, and how they go about doing that, what skills do the team have? Have you managed to be able to train them up, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we've got 23 people in our team. The vast majority of them are software engineers, and they have mostly been using Python to make innovation artificial intelligence projects, or have been working in Blue Prism, which is our robotic process automation tool. And when you work in Blue Prism, it's pretty much like a clicking experience. There's not a lot of coding happening, but it's logic through arranging like a flowchart on the screen and how it interacts with the apps. What we found over the last 6 months is that low coding is much slower than AI coding, or using AI to code.
Wow.
So we're in this weird situation now where low code was quite preferential before because we had a scarcity of developers and development time. Now we're spending more time doing low coding stuff than we are the more complicated custom code in Python. So we're going through a process right now of trying to embed Python inside our low code tools, so we can still take advantage of the scheduling and the orchestration, but we're spending more of the processes are being built with AI to speed the whole process up.
That's amazing. And are there particular tools that are good for vibe coding at the minute? Because I know there's lots of teachers out there listening in. They'd be probably, this is again a bit technical, but some of the technical IT decision makers and IT teams dialing in. When people ask me about vibe coding, you know, I think my concern on an enterprise level is I'm trying to take my bias out of it. I know the GitHub Copilot stuff, but then what we've got is a cacophony of consumer apps like Claude, which are amazing at coding. Are there particular tools that you're happy with the teams to use? I know Claude's pretty good at the coding side, but do you have to think about that when you do vibe coding?
Yeah, for sure. So in our team, we are just starting a trial of Cursor. Cursor is like a very specific product that's been built for coding. So it's taking all of the cool stuff that AI can do, but then really richly embedding it into the interface that developers are used to using. It's a bit like GitHub Copilot, but one of the better things about Cursor is that it has chains of agents that have been built to do specific things that developers like to do, and it can piece those skills together to do all kinds of stuff. So we're running that trial for the next 6 months to see what kind of impact it has on our team. And we're going to be measuring things like speed of development, how many more projects we can deliver. We're going to be measuring code quality. We're going to be scanning them for security vulnerabilities to see if we're introducing more security vulnerabilities into our environment. And then one of the things I'm very interested in, because I've noticed it myself, is when you're using AI to operate at this kind of speed, you get this intensification of workload, because you get to a point where you're not just working on a couple of projects at a time. You could be working on 6 projects at a time.
Yeah.
And that can be quite overwhelming for developers who like to dedicate time to their craft and build one thing really well. So we're also embedding wellbeing studies through our 6-month trial to understand how developers feel about working about this, what are areas that they're concerned about, and how they're going on this adaptation with us too.
That's phenomenal.
I remember seeing a post on social media about plumbers. And it was a plumber saying, I can come and fix a job for you for $200 an hour. But if I'm fixing a job you've done DIY first, it's $300 an hour because I know it's going to be more complicated. Is that going to start to apply to vibe coding when somebody from the business comes and says, oh, I've done this project with vibe code, and the first thing you have to do is undo the work?
There is a little bit of that, but overall, still faster if someone comes to us with a Vibe solution. So we're working with one of our business partners right now who has Vibe coded a web app up to do something. But when we looked at it, it would have been a slightly less than perfect user experience because the actual AI part was taking minutes to run. So you would have to load a web page up, a specific web page to do this very one thing, put the documents in, and then you would just be sitting there for 2 minutes waiting for the response. So we picked that up. We're still going to use the business logic that he embedded in it, but we're going to put an email interface on it instead. So now someone just emails the documents through to the mailbox, and then like 5 minutes later, they'll get an email back. So sometimes we might make little tweaks like that to kind of fit in.
Yeah, because that's what you need, isn't it? And I know I mentioned in the pod before, but we were doing that agentic AI hackathon, and lots of the things that the teachers are coming up with were actual business processes. So it wasn't, they were going, oh, I'd love an agent to be able to filter my email. You go, well, you've got email rules for filtering your email, that kind of stuff. But that's really interesting the way because you being able to look over the top of it strategically and go, there might be a more efficient way to do this is still really important. But I suppose the other interesting thing you mentioned there was you using AI to check for the security. And obviously we've seen a lot in the news recently about Anthropic's Mythos model or whatever it was, the one that's broken a lot of security kind of protocols and things, so they haven't released it. Or no, they've broken it, but they've kind of identified security things. Are you using AI then to check for security flaws in some of the tools?
Yeah, and we're also using AI throughout the entire software development lifecycle. So if you think about, for those who don't know, the software development lifecycle starts with quite a human interaction because you've got to understand the customer and what is the problem they're trying to solve. And then it's kind of like a contractual phase where we write, as techies, we write down exactly what we think the business problem is. And then there's like a to and fro as we go, oh no, we got it completely wrong. And we actually start to understand deeply what the business process is. So that's very paper-based and relationship and spending time with each other. But we're actually embedding AI into that process as well. Because what we're also doing as technical people during that process is the last thing we want to do is reinvent something new for something we've already solved. And previously, AI would have made a good solution based on that description, but it doesn't have any context of how we've done things before. So we've now given the AI context of how we've built all of our previous solutions, the kind of patterns we like. It has access to the libraries that we like to reuse inside our code. So it actually makes the first version of that business requirements document in a lot more detail than we would previously. And that made us think, what else in the software development lifecycle could we be moving around? Because the SDLC has pretty much been written for human risk or human waste of time.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah, so that design document, for instance, we would leave until just before we started development because it takes a lot of developer time to write. And we want to make sure that we're writing it once and getting it correct the first time. But now we can make hundreds of iterations of that AI developed. And so we've moved it right to the very start of the life cycle. So we have our first client meeting and then we make a first version of that design document. Usually it's like, 50% wrong, but it's a really good structure for then us to have a conversation, speed up that requirements gathering process.
Yeah.
And the same in testing. We now simulate customer testing before we hand over the agent to the customers.
That's very cool.
So does that imply your team need different skills? Because in the past, it would have very much focused on the technical skills of being able to generate code. And it sounds like a lot more time now is spent in the other parts of the process.
Yeah, I'll caveat what I'm about to say by saying we're months into this journey that we're going to be going through this year. But it seems to me like, yes. And what I'm seeing right now is that we've got software being written much faster. So the actual time that you spend doing technical work inside that end-to-end process is much smaller than it used to be. And then because of that time shrinkage, we actually need more projects to work on because my team has the luxury of being fixed size and then we have to just get work to keep the team active. So we're now putting quite a bit of strain on two extremes of our software development lifecycle. The first part where we are getting requirements and new projects to work on, and then the flip side, the support and hyper. This month, our team, don't hate me, I'm going to try and predict the future of what's going to happen in a week's time, but we are due to deliver like twice the number of projects this month than we normally deliver.
Wow.
Just by adopting AI. But it places strain on pre-sales part of our organization because they have to go and find lots more.
Yeah.
And then also hypercare. We've never had this number of projects in hypercare at the same time. So quite possibly next month will be a disaster because we don't have any time to do development. We'll see. All these we've got to kind of even out and work out what are the skills. But what it seems to me though is that the skills required are communications and relationships and the people side of the software development lifecycle, and less the technical parts.
So I get asked that quite a lot. Like I did an event with the Big Day In recently, and the kids, when you show AI and what it can do, kids always ask that. They say, "Is it still worth me going into software development?" And my kind of answer for them is kind of usually, yes, but the software development courses that you used to might change because of this. So you might not need to spend. I've done a lot of reviewing of courses recently. I'm doing one at the minute. I can't remember which uni it's for. But when I was looking through the content, it's the same kind of stuff. It was like relational databases, C#, blah, 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 blah. And, it was pretty much standard stuff. But I think they will change that content because you don't need to maybe learn that in a traditional way anymore. So it maybe those soft skills, project management skills are more important.
I'm pretty rubbish at predicting the future. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on this podcast with you. But my take on it is that, yes, the job is changing. So if you're going into software engineering because you enjoy like handwriting code and not spending time with people, then you should think again about what software development might be like by the time you graduate or find a job. But if you enjoy working with people and solving problems, then yes, 100% it's still the right job for you. The reason I'm like giving slightly different advice than I would a year ago is because the AI has got suddenly tremendously better over the last year. Like a year ago, software development was pretty impressive that it could write code, but you definitely 100% needed a human in because frequently it just wouldn't even run straight away. But with the latest models that were released in December, that's not the case now. It writes pretty good code if you know how to work with the tool.
Yeah.
So I can see, like if that curve continues, I can see a time when like you don't need to look at the code to write software. But still having a knowledge of how systems are constructed and how they work together will be very beneficial.
Yeah. So, Ray, if we're going to go off and learn vibe coding, to tail this episode, I think we should do a little... is there an activity that we could do, or anybody listening could do if they're interested in vibe coding, Dan? Would there be something... Would you recommend using a tool to do something when you started out doing vibe coding or understanding it? What would you suggest me and Ray go out and do? And then we can come back and share with the pod our experiences.
Find a real problem to solve. But I think that's the same advice I would have given like 2 years ago working in software development. If you're not solving a real problem, you're never going to get real feedback. So you don't know whether it's good or not good. And also you need to get passionate about understanding.
Are there any particular tools that are easy entry-level tools to use for vibe coding for teachers and maybe us?
I'm going to suggest one. I've been building with Google Cloud's AI Studio in the Build tab. So not in the Chat tab, because then it'll write code for you. The Build tab actually builds websites with functionality on it. It stands up the databases in the background, so it does the things I don't know how to do. But the observation I have is it still needs me. Not only to describe the problem to it well, but then as it starts to go through to go, no, we don't work like that, and that isn't how users like to see things. Change that thing. And then the other thing I found is I still need some system-level thinking in the work that I'm doing with it, because it's taken a design decision to do something in a certain way, and the result isn't great. And so it's like, okay, well, how could I solve this? And having a conversation with it to say, do you know what? I think what you've done is a normal search, but actually what you need to do is a bit more AI-centric.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a coder anymore, but I have enough knowledge of the technology to be able to spot when things are going in the wrong direction, when it's taken the wrong choices. And so that leads me to a question I've got for you and your team. Because in startup world, or in vibe coding world, in Dan and I world, move fast and break things will be what we're doing. Like, I'm happy to vibe code an app, and if it doesn't work, I'll give it the error message and tell it needs to fix it. But you're running mission critical processes inside a university. You work for the CFO. You can't afford to move fast and break things.
Yeah, we're not going to. Yeah,
All right.
My motto is move fast and keep things up.
Okay, so how do you do that?
I'm super fortunate. Big shout out to my team. So I was effectively joining a shadow IT team when I took this job. So I was a bit worried about what I would uncover when I joined there. But the team are like one of the best documented and the best processes there are. And they've really spent time working at the support processes and putting in the necessary controls and the life cycle to ensure stability. When you're running 400 processes, every day something goes wrong, especially when you're relying on the older screen scraping techniques where we're clicking in interfaces, because they can change. But we have processes in place to work out what the problem is and fix it pretty quick. We do a net promoter score every year. Our net promoter score last year was in the 80s, which is like incredible. I don't think I've ever worked anywhere where the technical team is so well regarded.
Yeah.
But that's credit to the team. I don't think you get to 400, like they were at 380 when I joined, there wasn't much happened, but you don't get to that level without seriously thinking about customer service and making sure things are up.
That's
being good at
phenomenal.
communication. They're amazing. I love them.
That's a whole business-centered conversation when you're actually an internal service unit. I find it fascinating because the language you use, the way you describe it, the way that you envisage the journey is all built around the customer, and your customer is internal. It's fascinating.
Yeah, well, Dan, thank you for joining us on the pod again. That was really insightful. I think we need to go and do some vibe coding, Ray.
Yeah, I'm loving also the transition that Dan was an expert last time we spoke to him about chatbots for school students. Now he's an expert in automation and innovation. I can't imagine what we're going to get next in episode number 3.
Third incarnation.
Thanks again,
Thanks,
Dan,
Dan.
for joining
Pleasure.
us.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.